haven't caught up on. So we're about to talk boxing. Of course, I already talked about Tank versus Lamont Roach Jr., but you guys probably wondering why am I going to mention this in the scheme of things? I'm going to start off with this. It's because I was listening to a number of different people speak on this matter, and different people have different degrees of opinions, and they're still talking about the court case and the knockdown, etc. I think Paulie Malignaggi was the guy that started going on Tank about, he's fighting all these, low ranked fighters, with the odds like, 16 to 1, 20 to 1, and that kind of stuff. And he was saying, that Roach isn't anything special. He's got high IQ, but he's nothing special. Paulie says a lot of things. And Paulie, I believe he believes sometimes half of the things he says, he doesn't even believe what he's saying. Okay. It's clear to me and to probably any boxing fan who's pretty knowledgeable that Lamont Roach is an inside fighter. He does most of his work on the inside to mid-range. And everything he does is to orchestrate that. That's where he thrives best. Gervonta Tank Davis, though he fights mid-range, he's not really an inside fighter. He loves mixing up mid-range, but when it comes to fighting on the inside, the actual inside work, and it's kind of strange because you would think Tank, being the fighter that he is, he's short, he needs to cover distance, and he needs to fight on the inside. But actually, he's more of a mid-range fighter. That's where he really does his best work. And he can box you on the outside if he has to. And it doesn't matter what your reach is. It's really that good. Now, Paulie Malignaggi was trying to say that Tank's a bitch and he'll bitch out on people when the opposition gets too great for him. And Paulie had a lot of choice words to say for Tank. I don't think Tank has any kind of bitch in him. I don't think that. Yes, he did take a knee to break the action. Yes. He is somebody that, like almost any power puncher out there, if his power is not working for him, he goes to boxing. Don't get me wrong. He'll go back to boxing. But of course, when you depend on your power to get people out of there all the time, at some point you're going to, if a guy's not budging like that, you're going to have to mix it up and change up your game. Do I think that Tank is a bitch like Paulie's trying to say? No, Paulie's a boxer. I understand that. No, I don't think so. Do I think Tank looks for a way out when things are not working, or he's going to do some dirty tactics? Absolutely. He'll do that. But I don't think he's a bitch. If he was a bitch, he would have folded under Lamont Roach because Lamont Roach was bringing it. I think it has to do with range. Tank excels at mid-range. That's his forte. Unfortunately for him, a lot of the things he can do in that ring, Lamont Roach can do also. And that is why when you see them on the inside, they're both almost mirroring each other. Roach is able to mirror Tank. I remember Buddy McGirt talking about his fight with Pernell Whitaker. And I'll never forget when Buddy McGirt said that he started mirroring what Pernell was doing. And that's what made the fight so difficult between him and Pernell the first time, was that he kept on mirroring what Pernell was doing, and it was a very close fight. Exceptionally gifted fighters, they rely on certain things to get them through. With Floyd, it was the pull counter. His famous pull counter. You catch early in the game, when people didn't know that Floyd could do that, he caught them off guard. You knock out guys with a pull counter because it's a shot that you don't see coming. Tank, like Floyd, depends on surprise. He depends on catching you with a shot you didn't even see. Frank Martin never saw that left uppercut that came. He never saw it, right? And that's what knocked him out. Lamont has sparred with Tank. He's fought Tank in the amateurs. So he knows Tank. And then the things that Tank can do, Lamont Roach can also do. So not only does Tank not have the advantage of unpredictability or attacking you when you don't expect it against Lamont, but also Lamont can do most of the things Tank can do, Lamont can do also. And we saw them. You saw Lamont change and fight off the back foot if he needed to, if he needed to. But Lamont Roach, mainly his thing is fighting on the inside. It's closing distance and fighting on the inside. That's what he thrives best. He's going to thread the needle to get to you. And guys who fight on the inside, usually inside fighters, are strong. They're physically strong guys to be able to do that. All right. And Lamont Roach has shown us the caliber of fighter he is. He is an elite fighter. If you guys don't realize that. And the reason why Lamont Roach even talks about facing Shakur Stevenson and having no problems facing him is because Lamont Roach is that caliber of fighter. He's talking about going up to 140 and fighting Jose Valenzuela, also known as Raul. But Raul just recently lost to Gary Anton Russell. So maybe he'll go up and fight Gary Anton Russell, which again is another DMV fight. That would be great. Okay. My point being, Lamont Roach isn't a straight up and down cookie cutter. The fact that he can counter Tank's counter. So he would bait Tank with a jab. Tank would come with the left hand, and then he'd counter off that left hand. Shows you that Lamont Roach is not only familiar with Tank, but he has the skills and abilities to neutralize and to counter Tank. And that was something Tank knows about. And they've had in the amateurs very close fights. So it's not surprising that this was also a very close fight, which Lamont should have won had they called the knockdown. I don't think Tank has any bitch in him. I don't know where Paulie's getting these things from. And I know he's saying that Lamont and their team said that about Tank maybe, but I don't see any bitch in Tank. I don't see any quit in Tank. When you say quit, Tank doesn't quit. He'll use all kinds of strategies and tactics and dirty tactics as well to get along in a fight. But I don't really see any quit in him. Okay. What I do see, though, is a very skilled fighter in Lamont Roach being able to very cleverly adjust range to the right range. You see, Lamont had this range thing down packed. He was using the jab to come from outside to inside. And then once he got to the inside, he could do his work. And he also had a very effective counter right hand for Tank's straight left. If Tank tried to throw the straight left, he knew something was coming back. And that made Tank somewhat hesitant to throw the straight left. And now it became a thinking man's game. Now he had to try and outthink Lamont. So Lamont is a very high IQ fighter. And because of this high IQ, this is what is making this fight. That's what made that fight so difficult for Tank. Now, another thing I heard Paulie say, and not just Paulie, but the other guys, and they don't seem to understand. And we heard about this. Tank even said Lamont Roach had these things. And he knows Roach better than Paulie, better than Chris Algieri, for Pro Box TV. He actually knows Roach better than all of those guys because he fought him. And he's not, this will be what is his third time fighting him? He's going to fight him a fourth time. Roach has Tank's number. Okay. He knows what Tank will bring to the table. He's seen it before, and now he's fought him again, so he actually absolutely knows what he brings to the table. The problem that Paulie and Chris Algieri and these guys, they underestimate Roach, and they know Roach from the amateurs, and just because he lost a fight to Jamel Herring, in which he almost knocked out Jamel Herring 6 years ago, they are still trying to class Roach as he's nothing special, he's nothing. Listen, I heard Paulie say the same thing about Devin Haney. Devin Haney is very special. Anyway, you guys will realize Devin Haney is very special very soon. Lamont Roach is another very special fighter. Now, Paulie's not wrong about a couple things. One, Lamont Roach isn't the fastest out there. Neither was Floyd Mayweather. He's twitchy, though. He's not probably the strongest out there. He's not probably the heaviest puncher out there. But all of that is made up for with IQ. And his IQ is extremely high. Like Floyd Mayweather wasn't the fastest, wasn't the quickest, wasn't the most powerful, wasn't the strongest. But Floyd Mayweather was separated from all the others by his ring IQ. His IQ was very, very high. And he could get you to do things and fall into the traps he sets and spring his traps. And that's what Lamont Roach was doing to Tank. And Tank knew what he was doing because that was what Tank was trying to do to Lamont Roach as well. There was high-speed chess in there. So for anybody who doesn't know who Lamont Roach is, now y'all guys know who he is. I didn't know who he was. I mean, I kind of looked at some of the amateur fights. I looked at some stuff that he did. I know he had fast. He's got fast hands. Don't let anybody fool you. He has very fast hands. He throws combinations and bunches. And when he's destroying a fighter, he's destroying a fighter. One of the things I am surprised that Paulie and Chris Algieri didn't realize about Lamont Roach is he does have power. As Tank will tell you, he has sneaky power, meaning he doesn't put everything on every single shot. He's not trying to, overwhelm you with his power. But there are certain shots he puts great power and leverage in. And if you get on the end of those shots, you're going to be in all kinds of trouble because you can get skanky leg. He had Tank stumbling back a couple times with some very flush right hands. He does have power. And actually, he not only does have power, he has power to knock you out if you're not watching it, you're not paying attention. And he showed that power against Tank. And that's another thing, another element of Lamont. If he stays in this division, the next fight, he's going to have even more power than he had before because he's acclimatized in the division. This is the first time he stepped up into that division, right? So Lamont Roach is bringing a lot to the table that I think Paulie and Chris Algieri and those guys at ProBox TV are overlooking. Clearly, this guy isn't what you guys think he is. And there's a reason he has so much confidence. And he knows he can beat Tank the second time around. He knows that. And he'd been saying that even before they fought the first time. Okay? So I can tell you right now, this guy is not somebody to play around with. He's tricky. He's sneaky. He's a high IQ kind of fighter. So, and he has a lot of experience with Tank, which goes a long way. Maybe some other style, he would have to adapt and deal with it differently. Now, the thing I noticed about Lamont Roach, like Tank, he tries to gather that data. And then later down the stretch, but they said they were intentionally doing this, though. Later down the stretch, he really put the pressure on Tank. So he was building up pressure on him, building up pressure on him, building up pressure on him. And you could see that Lamont Roach pretty much dominated the final championship rounds. He really took those. I would say that with respect to Lamont Roach and Tank, which it looks like we're going to run it back. And I don't know if the New York State Athletic Commission will reverse the decision and give Lamont Roach the victory for that first fight, given that they didn't score the knockdown. I don't know if that'll happen. But what we are certain about is if this rematch happens, Lamont Roach will be able to show even more, without a doubt, no matter how motivated Tank is, that he really beat Tank the first time. I think Roach is that kind of fighter like Artur Beterbiev. Like Dmitry Bivol, who I thought won the first fight. He's a fighter something like Devin Haney. He's a fighter like Shakur Stevenson. This is the breed of fighter we're talking about. Okay. Nayo Inoue. These guys learn from fighting a guy the first time. So the first fight may be rough. It might be, close. I think the second fight is not going to be as close. I think Lamont Roach is going to bring a lot more to the table. I was listening to Chris Algieri say that, Tank has more to bring to the table. Maybe he does. Maybe be a little sharper. Maybe he won't move as much. Maybe he'll try and push. He'll be the guy trying to go forward to see if he can, get Lamont on the back foot. Maybe he'll try to be more forthright. But what I can tell you is Lamont Roach hasn't shown us everything. That is for certain. And the fact that he's not even fully acclimatized to 135 says volumes. All right, because you saw what his power looks like. You saw the strategy, the game plan he brought. So I know there's more in the tank for Lamont Roach, and he's much younger. I think he's a little younger than Tank as well. So there's a lot I would love to see from these two. Maybe it ends up being a trilogy, but I do think that a lot of people underestimated Lamont Roach, and even myself. And actually, we should have paid attention because these guys had history. And when fighters generally have history, usually you think of Antonio Tarver versus Roy Jones Jr. You think of what's that guy that faced? Was it Rigondeaux? It wasn't Rigondeaux. No, I remember Nicholas Walters. He fought the guy who in the amateurs beat him or something, and that guy gave him a lot of problems. And I can think of a couple other examples where guys in the amateurs, beat the guy in the pros, or gave them tough fights in the pros, and the pro fight turned out to be tough as well, right? Guys who usually have history with each other, styles make fights, and guys who usually have history with each other, where maybe the guy beats you in the amateurs or whatever, and they meet up, it's very interesting to see how those fights turn out, All right, so that's that with Tank versus Lamont Roach. I just wanted to make those things clear because I heard Paulie say certain things which I just don't agree with. I don't think that Gervonta Tank Davis is in any way bitchy. That guy's built from a different cloth. You don't be a bitch and make it that far in your career. And yes, I know he moved away from the biggest challenges in each division, and we wanted him to see him face Lomachenko and all these guys, and he was kind of carefully maneuvered away from those guys. I do agree with that. I do agree with Paulie that he did not face the kind of competition we was expecting him to face by now. Up to this day, he has never faced a number one fighter in any division whatsoever. Now, some of the guys he fought, Paulie's, trying to devalue these guys, had great careers. You talk about the first champion that he faced in his career, right? Jose Pedraza. That was a fantastic fighter. Two-time, two-divisional world champion. You can't take that away from him. Pedraza fought Lomachenko, gave Lomachenko a run for his money, right? So I can't look at Jose Pedraza. Tank beat Jose Pedraza, and Jose Pedraza can talk about he was weight drained or whatever. I couldn't care less. That was a huge step up for Tank. Huge step up. This was the guy, undefeated, Puerto Rican fighter. And Tank knocked him out, which was amazing. Okay? Now, Tank accused Floyd of putting him into the ring to lose in that fight, which is crazy to think about. Because me personally, I thought that was one of his better performances, right? And he did amazing against Jose Pedraza. You can't knock the Jose Pedraza win. You just can't, right? This is a totally inexperienced guy at that level going up against a world champion who had been undefeated, who had a lot of skill. Jose Pedraza, again, is a switch hitter, inside fighter. He can fight on the inside, he can fight on the outside. He's a very versatile fighter. We've seen him knock out guys, even at 140, where it's not his best weight, but, Jose Pedraza was a thing, okay? Then Mario Barrios, okay? These are not, they may not have been, it wasn't Josh Taylor, Josh Taylor was the guy at the time. But Mario Barrios is right now, I believe, the WBA champion, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Or the WBC champion. I don't know which one it is. He is currently the champion at welterweight. Now, you can't knock this dude. This dude is a legitimate champion right now. You can't knock that. Then you can't knock Tank fighting Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz became a world champion. He didn't just stay a contender. He became a world champion, knocking out Rolly Romero. Okay. Isaac Cruz. You can't knock that. Okay, so it's not like he's fighting nobodies. And Isaac Cruz was red hot. He was a guy from Mexico. Everybody used to talk about Pitbull, Pitbull, Pitbull. To this day, there's lots of Pitbull fans. Very exciting style. Gave Gervonta Davis a run for his money. You could say that Valenzuela kind of outboxed Isaac Cruz. Yes, he kind of outboxed him, but still at the end of the day, he still had to fight him like a matador to a bull. Because Isaac keep on coming. He don't stop coming. Okay? Isaac is an exciting fighter like Subriel Mateus. These are exciting fighters. I would love to see Isaac Cruz versus Subriel Mateus, for example. And Isaac Cruz is a small guy. He's like it's shorter than Tank. Tank is what, 5'6". Isak's like 5'4", 3. He's a small guy, but boy, is he a pit bull. I think in boxing we need to appreciate what we're seeing, and I think a lot of us don't appreciate what we're seeing. Then Tank did go down to 130. We didn't think he was going to make the 130, but he did, and he fought a 4-divisional world champion who wanted to become 5-divisional champion when he was something, not when he was nothing, in Cruz, right? Santa Cruz, right? And that was a great champion. He wasn't the greatest with defense, but a great champion. He knocked him out. Now, yes, the guy was coming up in weight, Tank was coming down in weight, so you'd have a weight advantage. You'd be kind of like a weight bully. But to be fair, Santa Cruz fought his ass off and was doing pretty good in the fight. Tank was getting his number, and of course, Tank had the harder punches and whatever. But for Tank to go down to 130, nobody thought, and he wasn't as disciplined as he is now, and do that. Now, here's the thing. Tank fought some good fighters. Okay, nobody's questioning that. I don't. I wouldn't say Frank Martin was one of his better fights. I think it was too early for Frank. Frank shouldn't have fought Tank, but he did. He took the opportunity to fight him. He's part of the experience. And Frank was, top 10, whatever. But I didn't think that Frank could do anything for Tank. I thought Frank, and then Frank actually was going to go in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. I didn't even think he was going to make it with Shakur, far less Tank. But here's what it is. Tank also fought Hector Garcia. He also fought Ryan Garcia. Well, you saw what Ryan Garcia did to Devin Haney. If you want to just look at it from the surface level, this is what he did to Devin Haney. Devin Haney has fought way better competition than Tank has. And Ryan Garcia, who Tank knocked out, I know we're not counting the situations and whatever. Ryan Garcia did the business on Devin, right? Knocked him down 3 times. Other than knocking him down 3 times, he really didn't win much rounds. And Devin did hurt him in the first round. But having said all that, Ryan Garcia, though he cheated and used PEDs, did fight Devin Haney, and he did knock him down 3 times. Now, the fight was ruled a no contest, so it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, we saw that. We witnessed Ryan Garcia, though he was on PEDs, fighting Devin Haney and doing the impossible and doing better than I expected him to do, and actually winning the fight. Now, I don't know if he actually won the fight. When you score it, to me, I scored it a draw. But because he knocked down Devin Haney 3 times, I guess that feeling of, oh, wow, the wow factor probably gave Ryan Garcia the fight. But having said that, Tank was the guy that knocked out Ryan Garcia. You can't call Ryan Garcia nobody. He's like the biggest star in boxing right now. Right now, with the Riyadh season and with the card that they're on, he's heading the card with Rolly Romero, right? It's not Devin Haney. It's not even Teofimo Lopez. Ryan Garcia is hitting that card. So the star power of Ryan Garcia is what it is. Now, I say this to say, you can't say that Gervonta Tank Davis fought nobodies or no hopers, right? You can't say that because these guys went on to do big things. They went on to become champions, or they went on to become, you know, two-time world champions sometimes. Okay? So I wouldn't say his resume is per se weak. I would say that his resume, because he has good fighters on there. They're good guys he fought. Hector Garcia is a good fighter. And Lamont Roach beat Hector Garcia, and so Lamont Roach somehow got to fight Tank. What I would say is he fought some good fighters, but did he fight the very best? No. And that's a strike on his record. Period. Period. He has stayed away from the Shakur Stevensons, the Lomachenkos, the Devin Haney's, the Teofimo Lopez's. He stayed away from those guys. The only guy he fought was Ryan Garcia, the weakest of them all. Well, let's put it this way. To be determined if he is the weakest of them all. Because he's yet to fight Devin Haney again. They're going to have a rematch probably sometime this year. First of all, Ryan has to get past Rolly Romero. And while Ryan's thinking he's going to catch Rolly Romero with the left hook and put him down and knock him out, because Rolly hasn't had a good stint. You know, Rolly's coming off a knockout loss. We'll see. We'll see. I don't think Rolly's very strong. They're both going to be fighting at welterweight. Both Devin Haney, Jose Carlos Ramirez, Rolly Romero, and Ryan Garcia. They're all fighting at welterweight, so that's a much bigger weight class. Teofimo Lopez is fighting at junior welterweight. So Teo is actually a weight class below them. So that's yet to be seen. But what I'm saying is, when you look at Tank's resume, it has names on it. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it has champions on it. Okay? Is it a Hall of Fame resume? Absolutely not. It's not a Hall of Fame resume. The thing that everybody liked about Tank was he was knocking out everybody. And Lamont Roach ended his knockout streak. Not only did he end his knockout streak, he really beat him. And I don't think that Tank can knock out Lamont Roach. I'm not even thinking about that. That's not even a thought. The question is, can Tank either outbox Lamont Roach or have a game plan or strategy where he can win on points? He's not going to knock out Lamont Roach. We've kind of understood that. The other thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, and I was talking about range, and this is where Paulie's saying Roach is not anything special, and I can't understand why Paulie would say something stupid like that, but he does. Roach has a very good gauge of distance. So a lot of times when Tank is throwing those lead left hands, Roach is snapping back from it. The other thing Roach would do is he would ride the punches, just like how Tank would ride the punches with his head. He'd ride the punch. So you're not hitting him clean. And Canelo does this, and a lot of people do it. He also would roll the punches. A lot of punches rolled off his shoulders. He was actually catching them with the shoulder and it was bouncing off. So that's why Lamont Roach's defense was pretty on point, and that's why Tank wasn't really catching Lamont Roach with a 2-punch combination, a 3-punch combination, or even a single straight left. And Roach knows that Tank's major weapon is his left hand. So I think that's the reason why Lamont Roach really wasn't hurt by Tank. And he knows what's coming. He kind of knows what's coming most of the time. So he's able to take the steam off the punch by snapping back or letting it bounce off the shoulder rolling it, or whatever, And Roach knows how to ride and roll, and he understands the movement, the positioning he needs to be in to counter a guy. He's got that really good foot positioning. And he's not a guy that necessarily fights mostly on the outside and picks you apart from the outside. He's mostly loves to do his work on the inside, but he will still lead with the right hand, or he would lead with this. And he's also defensively responsible. When he leads with a certain shot, he's going to dip under or roll in or roll out. So, he's got that skill. And that's the thing about it. He's got all those skills in the book, all those skills that he learned and acquired and perfected. So it's going to be very hard for Gervonta Davis to knock out a caliber opponent like Lamont Roach. And then Lamont Roach brings to the table another thing. He's very tough. You could tell. He could take a punch if he needs to take a punch. So those are the things I noticed that Tank couldn't mix it up enough. And do I think that Tank versus Shakur is the same sort of variables in game? No, I think Shakur is a different fighter. One, they're both southpaws. That's the other thing. And two, Shakur's a different fighter. So while I do think that Devin Haney, Shakur, they would beat Tank, they wouldn't beat Tank like how Lamont Roach exactly did. They would counter him. They would counter his counter, or they would counter his lead for sure. But I think that they would approach the fight still differently. Devin Haney could pick Tank off from the outside and do it all night. Shakur, same thing. So I think that's one of the ways that they could beat Tank. And we saw elements of that with Lamont Roach, but for the most part, Lamont Roach was looking to come on the inside and do his body attacks. And Tank chose to box him more, to move around the ring and box him more. So I don't know if that's the same game plan Tank will use in the next fight, but we'll see. I don't know. As I said before, the thing with Tank is he's not going to win exchanges in close. That's Roach's thing, fighting on the inside. He's got at mid-range, he might win some, but I thought Roach was doing the better, cleaner work mid-range and on the inside. And if Tank made a mistake and threw that left hand lazily, or he fell short of throwing the left hand, Lamont Roach would come back with the right and tag him. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how the rematch goes with Lamont Roach. I think this is in Lamont Roach's court to make something happen. I think it's his fight to win or lose, to be honest with you, having seen the first one. But we'll all find out in time. I got another set of fights to talk about. So I thought this was going to be interesting. Who do you think that Oleksandr Usyk is going to fight next? Do you think it's going to be Daniel Dubois, or it's going to be Joseph Parker? Now, according to Samoa Global News, Usyk has turned down Parker and wants to fight Dubois next. Now, me personally, I think that's the way to go because Dubois has the IBF title, 1. 2, Dubois has been red hot. He has good punching power and everything. Usyk has faced Dubois before. I just think that is the better way to go. Get Dubois out of the way, and then Joseph Parker will have a title shot at all the belts because Usyk will be undisputed at that point in time. So for Usyk to be a 2-time undisputed champion, that would be crazy. Okay. And so why not beat Daniel Dubois and then have Joseph Parker face him instead of Dubois? Now, the thing about it is we've never seen Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, so that would have been an interesting fight as well. And it's not that it can't happen, but it's just if Usyk fights Daniel Dubois, he's fighting for a belt, right? So if he beats Dubois, I'm saying if, because Dubois has been firing on all cylinders and surprising everyone, okay? If he beats Daniel Dubois, which is a possibility, a strong possibility, Usyk's that kind of fighter, then he can face Joseph Parker after. Joseph Parker wants to get title shots. Well, how about getting the undisputed title shot, right? Daniel Dubois will have his chance at undisputed title shot against Usyk, and then Joseph Parker can have his undisputed title shot at Usyk as well, right? Because if they unify, if Usyk and Daniel Dubois unify, Usyk or whoever wins the unification becomes undisputed. So here's another shot at undisputed. So yeah, of course, Usyk will give Daniel Dubois preference over Joseph Parker, and it's not because he faced Daniel Dubois before, because he's the IBF champion. Why not be two-time undisputed champion? I mean, Usyk be killing it right now at heavyweight. He'd be just killing it right now. And so I think he's a pound for pound. I think he's one of the top 5 pound for pound fighters currently in the world. Clearly, you have Crawford, you have him. Who else do we have? We got Bivol. Yeah, he suffered a loss, but you could argue he won. It was a close fight. Who else we got out there in the pound for pound range? Who's been doing it? Naio Inoue. He's another one. You got to put him there. Who else we got? On there? So I'm just saying that Usyk is somewhere. He's, he and Crawford's be going neck and neck, in my opinion, because you're talking about the heavyweight division. And Usyk's basically conquered the heavyweight division. The only person he hasn't fought was Deontay Wilder. But he's been fighting mostly everybody. Besides Fury, he fought. Who else did he fight? He fought Daniel Dubois, of course. Who else did he fight? Who was he fought? He fought AJ. He fought Anthony Joshua. So the only one of the big names that he didn't fight was Deontay Wilder. But Deontay Wilder looks like he's out of the boxing game and he's going into something else. So he went out the opportunity to face Wilder. But I mean, I don't know. I think if he were to face Wilder, I'm assuming. I think he would find a way to beat Wilder. Okay, but you never know. You never know. It's boxing. It's boxing. You just never know. I would have loved to see that fight, and maybe we see it. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe Usyk will face Wilder before Wilder gets out the game. Who knows? Well, we're yet to see. Wilder never faced AJ. Usyk been wanting to face everybody, so he don't care. You know what I mean? He doesn't care. But this, of course, excites me. Usyk versus Dubois. I would like to see it again. Dubois is on fire. Let's see what Dubois can do, if he can do anything at all. Usyk's on a run as well. So I don't know. I think Usyk's going to beat Dubois, but I'm not sure because Dubois is doing pretty good. He shocked us by knocking out AJ. I didn't expect that at all. And he put on a good performance against Usyk before he got tired. So I expect him to be in better condition. See if he can go to Usyk's body, and let's see what Usyk can do with him. Usyk knocked him out in the first time. I don't know if he'll knock him out this time. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Joseph Parker, excellent fighter. Unfortunate for him that he ended up. Whoa, there's a lot of people here. Anyway, he ended up not getting that fight with Daniel Dubois, and he had a last-minute replacement, right? And a very dangerous fighter, by the way, as a replacement, and he knocked him out. He knocked that guy out. I can't believe he knocked him out. So Joseph Parker's another guy on fire. He's been just winning after he got knocked out by, I think it's Joe Joyce. He's just been on a winning streak since then. And, it's just amazing how these guys perform. Even Daniel Dubois, he got knocked out also by Joe Joyce. I just thought about that. They both got knocked out by Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce hasn't been doing very well, right? He's not been doing very well. But these two guys, they just got on fire, and they're just doing exceptionally well in boxing, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some of the fights that happened already. One of them is Gary Antoine Russell versus Jose Valenzuela, he really beat that guy up. He beat up Valenzuela. But Valenzuela actually didn't box too bad. You know, Valenzuela always boxed like how you see him box. The thing was that Antoine Russell was just more aggressive, more active, I think. Because Valenzuela landed some really good shots on Antoine as well. Um, Antoine got the decision. Um, but those two guys threw down. I like this. I like this. This is what I want to see. I want to see more fights like this. I think that Jose Valenzuela is a good fighter. Uh, you know, I had nothing against him. Gary Anton Russell's also a great fighter. He's a fantastic fighter, and his brother was in the corner coaching him. Gary. So Antoine got outboxed by, I believe it was Pueblas. He was outboxed. I mean, Pueblas made him. And in this fight, his aggression worked in his favor against Jose Valenzuela. He made some adjustments as well to be able, but it's his hand speed, his quickness, his aggression was on display. Valenzuela landed some really good shots on Antoine Russell as well in this fight. He wasn't just eating lead. He wasn't just eating, punches like the picture shows. He was actually dishing out his own thing too. They were rumbling. But Gary had much more. I thought Gary had more. He was more sharp. I think he was more aggressive. He's throwing more. You could tell he wanted it more than Valenzuela. Valenzuela has a kind of more relaxed style, even when he's throwing shots and stuff. And Gary was just, it was like a piston, and he tried to respond. So there was a certain point where Valenzuela might land a good shot and Gary would answer him. So ultimately, in the end, Gary won the fight over Jose Valenzuela Rayo. But Rayo had a good account of himself. Don't get me wrong. He fought, he fought his ass off, and he just, he came up short. There's no other way to say it. Gary had some of the flashier shots, and I thought the championship rounds, I thought Gary took most of them. So I thought he came on strong. So shout out to Gary Russell Jr. and success to him there on that fight against Jose Valenzuela. He's now the IBF, if I'm not mistaken. He's the IBF champion now. Is he the IBF champion? No. He's not the IBF champion. What are they? He's the WBA champion. He's the WBA champion at 140. The WBC champion is, I believe, is it Gustavo Pueblo? No, it's not Gustavo Pueblo. I forgot what his name is. And I believe the WBA champion is what they call him. They call him. I'm trying to remember his name, from New York. He's fighting the Mexican kid. What's his name? He's on the card with Ryan Garcia and Raleigh Romero. Teofimo Lopez. There you go. Teofimo Lopez, right, is, I believe, the WBO champion. He's also the lineal champion, if I'm not mistaken. So you have Teofimo Lopez. He's fighting against, can I not remember this guy's name? I can see him. He's with Golden Boy. No, he's not with Golden. Is he with Golden Boy? No, he's not with Golden Boy. He was with Top Rank, but he's now with Golden Boy, I believe. I forgot his name. He just beat, actually, which I didn't know, and I haven't covered. I haven't said it to you guys, but he just beat the guy who beat Just Taylor. What's his name? Oh, Jesus. Anyway, he went across to the UK to do that too. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah. So, yeah, Gary Russell Jr. is the WBA champion. I forgot what the guy's name is. He's the WBC champion. Teofimo Lopez is the WBO champion. And the IBF champion is Hitchens. Hitchens is the IBF champion. And I think Richardson Hitchens, he's scheduled to fight Mateus, if I'm not. Subriel Mateus gets a shot at the IBF title, fighting Richardson Hitchens. So he does end up facing Subriel Mateus. Well, I hear him talking about going up to 147 and all kinds of bullshit, but he should face Subriel Mateus. That's what he needs to face. You know? So there's Richardson Hitchens. He's talking about facing Teofimo Lopez. We'll see. I don't know. So there was that. Didn't really want to talk about this, but it's the last thing I'm going to talk about, which is Keith Thurman versus what's the guy's name? Mark Jarvis, I think his name was. Everybody's hyping this up, you know, look at that. Keith Thurman, he's back and blah, 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 because he knocked out Mark Jarvis, right? In about 3 or 4 rounds. All right, let me be real with you guys. I saw the fight. Who the hell is Mark Jarvis? No, seriously. Who is he? He's known in Australia. Is he known globally? Has he traveled anywhere? No. So, Mark Jarvis is an inside fighter. And for him, it was a big step-up fight to face Keith Thurman. Okay? And this was supposed to be the main event in Australia. But I pretty much saw that by the final minute of round 1, Keith Thurman knew what he was up against, and he was ready to deal with it. He had seen Mark Jarvis throw his punches, throw his combinations on the inside and stuff. He kind of blocked most of it, and he realized, okay, this guy likes to fight on the inside. All right, let's start boxing his ass, and started boxing him. And I mean, he was landing at will his right hand on Mark Jarvis in the second round. By the third round, I think he knocked him out in the third round. I think it only took 3 rounds. By the third round, he was feeling with the jab, came over the top with the right hand. He'd hurt Mark Jarvis. Well, actually, Keith Thurman actually explained all of this in an interview already. He broke down what happened in the fight. But basically, he hit him with a left hook to the, I don't know if it was the solar plexus or it was to the liver. But Mark Jarvis didn't like that. And so when Keith advanced to him, feinting as if he's going to throw the jab, Mark Jarvis winced and went backwards. And that's when Keith Thurman threw that right hand. Then he hit him with another right hand. And then he threw a bunch of combinations that ended in an uppercut that dropped Mark Jarvis on the ground. And Mark Jarvis managed to get back up to his feet, but it really didn't mean much because he was still defenseless, spinning, all that. And Keith just took his time and just baseball batted him with the right hand. He hit him 2 right hands, and I think he came in with a leaping left uppercut a leaping left hook. He hit him with that, put him down, and that was that. So people are saying Keith Thurman's back. Well, he fought a guy that was nowhere on his level. That's what happened. And just because he traveled all the way across to Australia didn't mean anything. It's like, it's cool that he traveled all the way across to Australia. Let's not get it twisted. That's cool, and that's great for his resume. But who did he face? Right? Who did he face at 154? It sets up his fight, though, with Tim Tszyu, which the fight that he did not fight, he didn't fight Tim Tszyu the first time. So he's getting an opportunity to fight Tim Tszyu again. The only difference is Tim Tszyu of a devastating knockout against, I can't remember who the champion, I think it was IBF champion, I think it is. Devastating knockout. Okay. So Tim Tszyu may have to get a win under his belt before he faces Keith Thurman, but that's who Keith Thurman wants next. Tim Tszyu. That's why he went all the way across to Australia to that Tim Tszyu. Hey, if I gotta come across to Australia to fight you, brother, I'll fight you. You know. So, and Keith's pretty old. You know, Keith's up there in age. I think he's 35. So he probably has a fight or two left in him, and then that's about it. And yeah, he doesn't fight that often, but still, you know. So it's basically all the fights that I just covered. I wasn't excited about talking about these, but I said, oh, you know what? I'm doing the video. I might as well just cover that and get it out of the way. So this is what I got for boxing. I don't know what you guys are saying. I don't know if you guys made any comments. If you have, maybe I'll try and run this back and see what they are, and maybe I'll comment below the video. But as of now, that's basically it for boxing with me. If you guys got any other greater ideas or anything else you want to talk about, you can leave it in the comment section. Yeah. You know what was the other thing I was hearing people saying? You know, Keith Thurman's back, and you know, Keith Thurman's performance against Mark Jarvis was better than Tank versus uh, Lamar Roach. And I'm like, these are two different caliber of fights. I mean, Keith Thurman's fighting a guy. Okay, he's whatever he is. You know, in Australia, he's undefeated. That's cool. It's not. He never been a world champion. He's never. This is a big step up fight for him. You know what I'm saying? You're not talking about a guy like Lamont Roach, who has an incredible amateur background, pedigree, world champion. Yeah, okay, he was a world champion at 130, but he can jump up to 135. You know what I'm saying? And he took on Tank. This isn't the same. So, I don't understand how people can say, Keith Thurman's back, but Tank's not back. Like, what are you talking about, man? It's just a different caliber of opponent. Just because Keith Thurman knocked out a dude that, he's the guy is now on the cusp of being world class. You know what I mean? He's now about to become a world class fighter. You can't. Come on now. You know what I mean? Who has Mark Jarvis faced? Who has Mark Jarvis beaten? I mean, who is Mark Jarvis? You know what I mean? It's these kinds of things we gotta. Okay, yes, you may not know the name of the person. They may be a great boxer and unproven. That's the problem. You can hype up somebody. I mean, I didn't even care about this fight. Okay, I didn't care about it at all. I watched it because I just wanted to see what was going on in boxing, catch up on some stuff. And I saw it and I was like, okay. But that's I guess we wanted to see how Keith Thurman looked at 35. How about that? But that's not a challenge for anybody. You know what I mean? All right, man, peoples. I am out of here. If you guys have some things to say, you probably said it on the feed, but I cannot see the comments in the comment section. So I'm